Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from Florida, we have Jamie Woodrum. Jamie is the Vice President of Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary and the founder of Humble Honee, Bumble-Free Alternative. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on Plant Your Seed. I really appreciate it. I'm wondering, when and why did you transition to a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so I actually went vegan back in September of 2018, and I feel like my story is a little reverse of what usually happens. Earlier that year, I had set my mom up with an Instagram account, and we had kind of, thrown around the idea because we had called ourselves animal lovers. We were working at a dog rescue, selling hamburgers to raise money for dogs, and just kind of, sat back and we were like, that's kind of a weird concept that we can have 10,000 people come out to this event and call themselves animal lovers, yet we're slaughtering one animal to raise money for another. So I had set her up with this Instagram account probably late in 2017. And for some reason, the way the Instagram algorithm worked, it just showed her slaughter video after slaughter video after slaughter video. And my mom was like, I can't support this. And she was like, let's go vegan. And I was like, Mom, you're crazy. Like, that's such an extreme lifestyle change. So she went fully vegan before I did. I toyed with the idea. I tried it for a month and I was like, this is so hard. I can't do this. So after the month of, being fully vegan, really struggling with it, I decided that, it wasn't for me, couldn't do it. It was too hard to eat out. And I tried to go back to being non-vegan, and my body just completely rejected dairy. So I went to being pescatarian, still eating eggs. And then that's when I finally started, aligning my morals with my actions and really looking at the videos that were showing up on her Instagram page, looking into slaughterhouse videos, and just seeing how we treat these innocent beings and realizing that, my palatable pleasure and 5 seconds at a dinner table aren't worth taking their entire lives. So that entire year, I slowly started transitioning things out of my diet. And then there was just one day where I woke up and I was like, how have I been, how old was I? I was probably 21 when it happened. So I was like, how had I gone all these years, supporting this industry as an animal lover? So in September of 2018, I went fully vegan and I could never see myself going back.
So you basically started, obviously it wasn't a health issue, and so it was more of an animal ethics issue.
Yes, absolutely. And, I had heard, all the misconceptions about veganism, like where was I going to get my protein? How was I not going to be skin and bones on a vegan diet? So, going into it, I was kind of weary of it, like most people are. But then you have to realize that it's the animal ag industries that are spreading these misconceptions. So
Right.
I really started looking at it from an ethical standpoint because I was, definitely a self-proclaimed animal lover. And I was like, how can you eat one species yet go home and snuggle your dog? So it was definitely an ethics thing for me.
Right. Now, you said you tried it for a month and that it was really hard. What was hard about it?
I think just in my mind, I really put so much stress and emphasis on the word vegan, It was like, how are people going to view me? Like, how are my friends going to think about me? I was an impressionable college student. And really just going out to eat, a lot of places, if I wasn't going to a strictly vegan place, I was like, great, I could have a side salad, take off the croutons, take off the cheese. So I'm left with lettuce and tomatoes. So it's like, I could never do this. Like sitting around people eating pasta and, smothered in Alfredo sauce. And I was like, wow, I'm really sacrificing a lot here. And I think it was not until I realized that I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm just simply changing the source of my foods to a more compassionate choice that I realized that it's really not difficult at all. You just really have to, condition yourself and go at it and make sure that, you know, you're doing it in a healthy way, but, not sacrificing anything.
You said that you'd go out with friends or whatever, and did you ever have any issues with your friends saying, I can't believe you're vegan, or you're hard to eat with now, or I don't like you, or I mean, like, what did your friends say to you?
My friends have actually always been incredibly supportive, and even to this day, most of them, if we're going out to eat, they'll only eat vegan in front of me because they understand that it's, a really big ethical standpoint for me. So they've been amazing. And when I went vegan, I was at the University of Florida. It was my junior year, and I started, seeking other vegans because I thought that, that sense of community and being around people that understand your core values and, understand what a vegan diet is and how to eat it, and, being able to do potlucks with them. I think that was definitely a key in sustaining my veganism, along with also obviously the ethical implications.
You said that your mom changed over to a vegan diet. Now, she changed over for the animals as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Is she still vegan?
Yes, she is absolutely still vegan.
Did she find that a lot of things changed for her?
I think we had a similar mindset, and I was born in Germany and I lived over there until I was 6. And, a lot of people say that their culture prevents them from being vegan. And to that, I have to say that I grew up eating some of the weirdest foods, not even batting an eye at it. I was eating blood tongue sausage, head cheese, some of the weirdest actual cheeses. So for her and I, like, that was kind of the lifestyle change. But, I think it was really good to have that support system, because I know a lot of people, they'll go home and they'll be like, well, I'm vegan when I'm alone in my apartment in college, but then I go home for the holidays and, my family's making a turkey for Thanksgiving, and like, then I have to eat the turkey. So I think for me and my mom, it was really good having each other there, because if we're at family gatherings, we'll bring our own food and we'll try to, um, kind of persuade our family and teach them through yummy food that veganism doesn't have to be that much different. So, in terms of things changing for her, yeah, I think it was pretty much the same. Like with me, we just went at it, with a strong ethical mindset, and you know, even if things did change, we were okay with it because we knew it was the right thing to do.
Now, have you seen any positive changes, both mentally and physically, when you've become vegan?
Yeah, I absolutely have. I think, like a lot of people, they say that their energy levels increase. So for me, that was definitely a case. And I think, like I said earlier, aligning my actions with my morals, like I can go to sleep at night and, know that I didn't harm an innocent being just for 5 seconds at a dinner table. So I think the mental one for me is big. And, I do work out, and every time I'm at the gym, I wear my vegan mask, and, you can tell people are, you know, trying to look at it and, you know, read the mask, and I wear the one that says animal markets breed disease, go vegan. And, they're probably wondering how I'm not skin and bones and buckling at the knees trying to lift weights, because, that is part of the misconception. But physically, I feel great. Um, yeah, mentally, even better.
You keep saying your actions are aligning with your morals. Why do you think more people don't think of it that way?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people think that, that's just the system and that's how it works. And, it's kind of like, how am I? I'm one person. I can't take down animal ag on my own. So might as well go along with it. And, like, that's the way people have been eating for thousands of years. And, I've heard every excuse in the book. So I think a lot of times people don't go vegan because they feel like it's not convenient, or, you know, it's they think it's such a hard lifestyle change, when in reality, like, once you start doing the research, I think it's pretty ignorant not to at least make some sort of changes and move towards a direction of veganism.
You say that it's, I guess, sometimes because people don't find it to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But yet an apple is vegan.
Yep.
Peanut butter is vegan. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to wrap their heads around not eating meat?
I think there's such a stigma against the word vegan. I've done activism where we're handing out free vegan food, and people are like, oh, if it's vegan food, it's not for me. And I'll be like, you haven't ever eaten a tomato? Or like,
right.
I could confidently say 70% of your diet is probably vegan, and if it's not, you're probably doing something wrong either way.
Right.
Yeah, I just think, we're so indoctrinated from such a young age that we need animal protein. I mean, look at these giant campaigns with like the got milk, and you need calcium for your bones, and you need meat to be a man.
Right.
And like, soy, there's a huge misconception about soy, and soy turns you into this feminine little, person. And
don't you think that's kind of xenophobic though?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the animal agriculture industries just have such a big hold over people, and they're just such big money making industries, and every time you have a living being viewed as a commodity, money talks. So I think it is the fact that we're so indoctrinated and told from a young age, like, you need to eat meat and animals, that it can be hard to kind of reverse that mindset for people.
You said that there's this kind of a negative connotation to the word vegan. Why do you think that is? It's obvious that there seems to be a very big negative connotation to the word vegan. But why do you think people have a negative impression of just that word?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, a lot of the negativity stems from a guilty conscience. So if people are able to put veganism in a bad light, they're less likely to feel the need to follow the movement, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, because basically what happens is you're questioning their morals and what they feel are the truths.
Yeah. And I think that's what the whole vegan movement stands for. So it's much easier to just discredit the movement as a whole and say, it's unhealthy, it's extreme, it's not the way humans have been living since the start of time, it's unnatural. So if we discredit all of that and the entire movement, people don't feel the need to follow it.
That's where plant-based has changed a lot of people's ideas. I think it's a little softer than the word vegan.
Yep. And I mean, with the word plant-based, it also, I think, depends on, a lot of people have a problem with the word plant-based. Personally, I don't care what you call yourself as long as you're not harming an animal.
Why do you think that people have a hard time with the word plant-based?
I've just heard on online forums and stuff that I read all the time, they say people that are plant-based can't be in it for the ethics because they're likely still wearing leather and not considering, all of the aspects that comes along with a vegan lifestyle, because they say, vegan isn't a diet, it's a lifestyle. Plant-based is a diet. So I think there's just some minor discrepancies in the definitions, but, if someone needs to start out plant-based, transition to veganism, I'm all for it.
Right. I think that's, I hate to say it, but that's kind of the problem with veganism, right? Everybody thinks that they're a better vegan than the last guy or the other girl or whoever. Why can't you just all get along and just be like, okay, so you're plant-based, so you haven't gotten far enough along to be fully vegan yet? I mean, like myself, I started out as plant-based for my health.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went down the huge rabbit hole of being vegan, and I was like, oh, wow. That's what happens to people. So for people to attack the whole plant-based start, it's not really a good thing for people that are starting out. And they're like, well, if these people aren't going to accept me, maybe I'm just going to go back to the way I was eating.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the sense of community is important. So if you're not welcoming someone with open arms, I think it can be a really big turnoff for someone. And I noticed myself, being the huge animal lover that I was, it took me, a few months to transition away from pescatarian. And had someone at that point started being like, do fish lives not matter? Do the chickens laying the eggs not matter? Like, maybe I would have taken a step back and been like, wow, these people aren't as compassionate as what they're usually preaching. And
Everybody's on a different stage on their journey.
absolutely.
How do you feel is the best way to educate and influence people to change their minds about eating meat?
I think a major part, so right after I went vegan, September of 2018, that next semester, which would have been January of 2019, I got involved with the Student Animal Alliance at the University of Florida, which is the animal rights group. I became their events manager. And then the following fall semester, fall of 2019, I became president. So I think with groups like that, you're able to just kind of go out and do public outreach events, which I think are very important. But the outreach events that we would do would be very positive ones. So we'd hand out food samples and we'd have movie nights and we'd show documentaries, But I think another thing that helps is visiting animal sanctuaries. So I got involved with Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary up in Gainesville, Florida, which is actually the largest cow sanctuary in the country, in February 2019. So I always say the day that I went vegan, I became an activist because I just jumped headfirst into all of this. So I became their social media director in February of 2019. And then recently in July of 2020, I became vice president. And I've noticed that when people come out to our tours, you can kind of see the light bulb go off because you see, this cow, as we call them, just big, giant grass puppies running the fields, playing with their friends, coming up to you, wanting to be scratched. Some of them even lift their leg in the back and, shake their leg like a dog when you pet them behind the ear. So I think a lot of people just, realizing that these aren't just big, dumb animals that are bred into existence to be turned into meat, realizing that, they have a purpose in life. It's all connected, like kind of like what we were talking about earlier. That, they really are like the animals that live in the house with us. And, I think it's just really important for people to make those connections because we can oftentimes be so disconnected from slaughterhouses. So going to a farm sanctuary and meeting these animals just really helps people build that connection. Did I answer your question?
Yes, of course. No, I was just curious. You got down that path of the disconnection and the connection that people make when they go to a farm sanctuary. Now, why do you think that there is such a disconnect between people and the food that they get at the supermarket?
Well, I think the animals that we just have deemed acceptable to eat, it's all just a social construct. Because if you look at countries like China that are eating dogs, Americans are absolutely disgusted by that. And, I'll play devil's advocate and I'll be like, I think eating dogs is fine. Why is that a problem? If people don't know that I'm vegan. And they're like, how could you say that? I'm like, it's just an animal, like how's it any different from the cow that you're eating? And, it kind of takes them a second and they're like, well, we're not meant to eat dogs. That's man's best friend. Cows are raised and bred into existence for us to eat. And, even if they don't fully understand the message right then and there, I think it does leave them with something to think about. Because, if, people, the average person doesn't spend a lot of their time with cows. I'm lucky enough to spend a good portion of my time with cows. And I can tell you, I sometimes rather spend time with cows than people. They're awesome. And we also have pigs and we have miniature donkeys, regular sized donkeys, horses, a water buffalo, a bison. So, we've got a lot of animals that people aren't fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with and get to know their personalities and see that they have a will to live and, their own background and personality. So I think if that were more common, people would kind of make that connection.
Why do you feel it's important for people to understand where their steak and their hamburger and their pork comes from? Like, you take them out to the sanctuary and they're hanging out with the cow, and all of a sudden they're like, light bulb goes off, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel that that's important?
Part of running the social media, we try to explain every cow's story. And, at the end of every post or every few posts, I'll be like, this could have been your next meal. So I think it's really important to highlight the fact that every cow that's slaughtered had a cute personality like the ones we're posting, And I think people are really disconnected and they're not viewing it as like a live being that had
Right.
feelings, emotions. And I've heard stories of, slaughterhouse workers say like the cows are actually crying, walking down into the area where they're actually doing the shooting or however they're killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if a lot more people recognize that these are intelligent and emotionally intelligent beings, that it would be a lot harder for them to eat them because, like I said earlier, a lot of people, they think cows are just big, dumb animals. And, it's a lot easier to feel disconnected if you're giving all these negative attributes to the being.
I'm curious to know, you're the vice president of Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary in Gainesville. Have you ever had anyone like the light bulb just go off right then and there, and they just were like, oh my God, I am not going to ever eat meat again?
We have, and that's probably one of the greatest feelings. And we also host a monthly vegan farmers market where we invite people from the community that have vegan products and goods. So during that, a lot of people are also able to, try out vegan items while also interacting with the animals. But back to your question, we've had people, say it to us on the spot. And a lot of times people will message us after events like the tours and the farmers market and be like, after interacting with, and they'll usually say like a certain animal that they really, really connected with. They're like, I can't support this with my money anymore. And believe it or not, a lot of people will message us and say that their kids, around age 5, elementary school, really young kids say like, Mom, I don't want to, this is where my bacon comes from. So I think it's within us to be able to show this compassion, but the longer we go throughout life, it's more indoctrinated in us that, this is normal. So I think kids are a great target audience because, there's like a video out there. It's like, I think there's like a rabbit. They're like, would you hug the rabbit or would you kill it? And, obviously the kid always hugs the rabbit. And I think a lot of times the kids are also disconnected because obviously, lack of access to internet. So, they often are able to make the connection a lot faster than their parents. But then we've had the parents follow suit. So that's always a really awesome thing because that's our whole purpose of, existing as a farm sanctuary. We can save, we have about a little over 100 cows and then all the other animals, but we could save so many more lives by the impact that we have through public outreach.
Now, how does that make you feel when somebody tells you that story about, that's it, I'm done eating meat?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's happy. It makes me happy because, it kind of gives me a sense of purpose because I feel like I said earlier, the day I went vegan, I became an activist. And, I just felt like I was put here to be a voice for the voiceless because, so many times animal rights are overlooked or, viewed as subordinate to other issues. So it makes me, feel fulfilled, but not just in such a, a selfish way as it makes me feel like I've I've been able to do my job for those animals and provide them with a voice.
Let's move on to Humble Honey, the Bumble-Free Alternative. I'm very curious about this. How long has this been in existence?
Yeah, so I graduated from the University of Florida in May of 2020. Really odd time to graduate. I got a bachelor's degree in biochemistry. I had plans to go to Germany for a master's program in molecular biology. And then COVID hit. My summer internships were canceled. So I was just kind of moving back home. My Facebook friend, whom I had never met, had started a vegan deli. It's called Dunedin Vegan Deli. It's right here locally. I'd moved back to Tampa right when COVID hit, because the school got shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So this local vegan deli opens up right after college. When I moved back home, my sleep schedule was all over the place. I was staying up until 8 a.m., sleeping until 5 p.m. I had no routine. I went from being this really super busy college student to having nothing on my schedule at all. So I saw that they were hiring, and I was like, I could totally work at a vegan deli. That sounds awesome. So I started working there, got myself a little schedule again, and my boss, his name is Jamie, and the other boss is EJ. It was just the three of us working there, and I had always thrown around the idea of starting, a company or something, but I got a degree in biochemistry, so I was like, well, now I have to do something biochemistry related. But he was like, let's just experiment with some recipes, just try some things out. So he was really supportive of that. So in summer of 2020, I started experimenting with recipes. I started with an apple-based product because that's what all the other honey alternatives are right now that are on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get the apple flavor out of my mind every time I tried it. So then we were like, let's try cane. Let's try a cane juice. So we tried that, and I really liked the recipe. So Jamie was really helpful in helping me set up the company. So I officially started the company in September of 2020 with all the legal paperwork, and then I launched in December of 2020. So I've only been doing this for about a month or two.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a great story.
Yeah. As with everyone else, COVID kind of turned my life upside down, and here I am thinking I'm going to go study science in Germany, and now I'm in Tampa, Florida with a vegan honey company. So.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. You're working at this vegan deli, and all of a sudden you're like, it's COVID, it's 2020. I feel like having a company. And so you guys were just kicking around ideas of alternatives, or was there ever anything else that came into play, or was it always just, I got to figure out a honey alternative?
Yeah. So for me, I had pretty much found a substitute for everything that I had liked before going vegan. But honey was kind of the one thing that hadn't really been perfected in my mind, or even widely available.
Excuse me. I'm just curious because I'm sure that the listeners are thinking, like I'm thinking, well, what about agave?
Mm-hmm.
What's your feeling on that?
And I had done the whole agave and maple syrup, but I feel like there's just an earthiness about honey that is just so unique. And honey on buttered toast was my go-to snack throughout my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I willingly gave it up because of all the things we talked about earlier when going vegan. But I was like, wow, wouldn't that be cool if I could recreate it? And agave is, it's a sweetener, it's a liquid sweetener, but it didn't remind me enough of honey.
That's very true. I was just curious because I know the first thing I think of is, oh, well, what about agave? And it's true. It's not the same feel. It's not the same, I guess, thickness, density. I'm sure you have a biochemical word for it. Viscosity. This is a question that I get all the time. Why do you think that vegans have such a difficult time with honey?
I think a lot of people, it probably has to do a little bit with the sentience of the being. People are able to recognize that, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not okay to stab a cow because I want a steak tonight, But does taking a bee's food source, is that on the same level? For me, I think if an animal has a will to live and it's on this earth, like, I'm not going to intrude on its life. Whether that means kill it, whether that means directly take its food source. If I can avoid it, I will absolutely do that. So I really don't know why a lot of vegans have trouble giving it up, because it seems like something relatively simple, like, what you said, just put agave on something or put maple syrup on something or now put humble honey on something.
Right.
So it's like an easy transition, but a lot of people even pride themselves in being called, not plant-based, not vegan, but if they eat honey, they call themselves vegans.
What?
Yeah, that's definitely a thing too.
That is not a thing.
That is absolutely.
So wait, you can be, oh man. So now you can be vegan but eat honey and you're a vegan?
Yes.
Oh man, I've never heard that. That is hysterical.
My mind was blown, but I was confused because at the root of the word vegan, the definition is not, using an animal or its byproducts. So it's like, honey is made by a bee, which is an animal.
Right.
How are you going to consume it and call yourself vegan?
That's hysterical. I had not heard that. That's very funny. Where did you get the courage to just go for it as far as Humble Honey is concerned?
Yeah, I really think COVID lit a fire under me because, throughout college, I was like, I had my life mapped out. I was going to get my biochem degree. I was going to go to graduate school. I was going to get my doctorate. I was going to stay in research. And then after I graduated, my life was just put on hold. And I was like, I was feeling like a little bit of a failure, not going to lie. I was like, wow, I'm living back home. I'm working some job that's not using my degree. I was like, I need something to make me feel like, I made it,
Mm-hmm.
just for a few months or a year while I get things figured out. And I knew that I wanted to do something where I was able to give back. And I knew that I wanted to make a bee alternative or a honey alternative. So I think, with the encouragement of my family and my bosses at the deli, they really motivated me to do it, because they were like, if not now, then when?
Exactly.
Right now during COVID, you can't do anything else other than sit in a commercial kitchen and try recipes. So it was really the time for me. So I just kind of went for it.
So did your biochemistry degree actually help you, or was it more like a recipe thing that you guys were just kind of toying with and found?
So I think it's a little more of a recipe thing, although it's really funny. I'll do markets and stuff down here in Florida, and people will come up to my tent and they'll be like, what, do you have some sort of chemistry degree or something? And I'm able to be like, why, yes, I do.
Why, yes, I do. Which one would you like to see?
So in that sense, I'm able to maybe understand a little bit of the chemical properties and what you said, viscosity, but I think it was a lot more just experimentation.
How and where do you make the Humble Honey?
Yeah, so I actually make it in a commercial kitchen at the vegan deli. So they rented out a space next door and they turned it into a 100% vegan commercial kitchen. It's also got a bakery in it. So for people that are, have local companies where they're wanting to make food products, they can rent out that space and ensure that it's 100% vegan and there's no contamination with animal products. So I make it right in that back commercial kitchen. And I actually just finished making all my bottles. So now I've just got them sitting on a shelf and I can focus on marketing and sales.
Wow, that's great. It's like a small batch at a time, or is it, I don't know how one of those kitchens works. Is it like a factory where the bottle comes down and it fills it up, or do you kind of mix it in on the stove and pour it in?
Yep. So it's right now it was just me doing absolutely everything, which has been stressful. But again, I have time on my hands. So yeah, I was making it. I was, doing the whole process. I mean, even if I gave away all my secrets, no one would want to do it. It's such a lengthy process. And I was bottling it myself. I did all the design work myself, like print the labels myself, ship everything. So yeah, everything happens in that back commercial kitchen. So that's been kind of my life for the past few months.
What's your distribution like at the moment?
Yeah, so I reached out to a bunch of so I'll start by saying I have noticed it's a very niche product. A lot of people at markets, if they're not vegan, will come up to me and be like, "So it doesn't have medicinal properties?" And
Mm.
to that, all I say is, not necessarily, but it also doesn't have bee vomit, at which point they'll usually just walk away. But I think the medicinal properties of traditional honey are also way overplayed. I think it's a sales tactic, because if you're concerned about, getting the bee pollen from local bees, like maybe just take a walk outside and expose yourself to that same pollen. Like, so, I think I think it is a very niche product with vegans. So I noted that and I started reaching out to vegan businesses and vegan, restaurants or vegan grocery stores around the country and just on Instagram, like, hey, I'll send you a free sample if you want to try it. Hey, so I kept repeating that and I sent out probably about 50 samples. And right now I'm currently in, I believe, 10 stores around the country, a bunch in this area. And then I'm in Texas, I'm in New York City. So they're just selling my honey out there. So
Nice. Such a great story. I love that. Now, how do you raise awareness for people about bees?
So that actually brings me into my next venture, which I haven't publicly announced. So this will be the first place where I'm doing so. I'm starting something called the Humble Bee Project, where I'm setting up bee micro sanctuaries at farm sanctuaries across the country. So I recently set up my first one at Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary. What it is, it's a little pollinator house, and then we set up wildflowers around it and a little pool with water and rocks so the bees don't drown, to kind of give the bees an area to thrive and hopefully encourage the increase of bee populations around the country. And they're actually native bees, so they're not honeybees, so you don't have to worry about, sanctuaries taking the honey or, most of them are vegan, so they probably wouldn't do that. But you don't have to worry about the upkeep of the hive. So my friends John and Emma, they run Peacefield Farm Sanctuary, which is also an amazing farm sanctuary in Gainesville. John is a videographer, and he came out and recently filmed a video for me. So within the next month, I'm hoping to release that video and kind of start a campaign and have a portion of the proceeds of every sale go to setting up those bee sanctuaries, because I think, like we were saying earlier, people go vegan once they have all the facts and kind of learn about it. I think the same thing can be said for people still consuming honey.
That's a fantastic idea. Micro sanctuaries.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very interesting. So then you're going to take some of the profits and channel them into this Humblebee micro sanctuary. Is that what you said?
Yep. So a portion of the proceeds or of the profits will go towards, buying supplies and the pollinator house that they would need and sending them seeds and getting them set up with these pollinator houses.
That's great. I love that. What is one habit that keeps you on track with your plant-based diet?
One habit. For me, I'm not sure if it's a habit as much as it is. I've really just been so blessed being a part of Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary. Just building a connection with those animals. I could never go back because, now I see people eating cows. I'm like, wow, it's like you're eating my pet dog. Like, that's like how close of a connection I have with these animals that I view them as like, almost my friends.
Right. No, I get that.
So So I'm not sure I have a single habit that'll help me keep on track, but I think having an Instagram and being connected with other vegans and following yummy recipes and making sure that I always have something in my back pocket to cook for friends when they come over. But yeah, I think I stay on track just by reevaluating my ethics and making sure that everything I'm doing kind of aligns with them.
Now, what cookbook or book have you gifted the most to someone transitioning to a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so I think it's important once you're helping someone transition to kind of analyze the reason why they're going vegan. If someone's going vegan for their health, a book like How Not to Die might be beneficial to them rather than showing them a slaughterhouse video. If someone is going vegan for the animals, maybe show them Dominion or one that's, a little less graphic to start out with. Or if someone's going vegan for the environment, there's a book called Eat for the Planet. It's really good. It's got some really awesome infographics that really break down how animal agriculture influences the environment. So I think those are, my usual ways of transitioning people.
Finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Oh, I think before I became vegan, I felt blinded, maybe misled, maybe ignorant. And now that I am vegan, I almost feel a sense of empowerment because I know that none of my actions are contributing to the mistreatment of a living sentient being.
It's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What is the best way for people to find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. It's at vegan curls, curls with a Z at the end. So CURLZ. You can also follow me on Humble Honey, honey spelled with 2 E's. And then you can also say hello on Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary, which is at Critter Creek Farm Sanctuary. So I run all 3 of those pages. So if anyone wants to give me a shout out, I'd be happy to talk.
That's great. Thank you again. Thank you so much for being here on Plant Your Seed.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.